fight for, your territory or a better survival or to take what you
Right.
want from someone else. We just live in a very different time because our ability to cooperate to create, better ways of life and more sustainable living, and our impulses to conquer and take from others has reached this point where we have the possibility of making ourselves extinct with the chemical pollution and the weapons of mass destruction that we have created in the name of keeping ourselves safe. And so we're at this real critical place in human history that we really have to make some choices as a species. And, I speak to America because I live in America and we're a powerful country. And I think we have to look at our own mental health and see what kind of choices we're making for our ultimate survival and thrival. And that's
Right.
very different than even 100 or, 200 years ago.
Right. And one thing I struggle with is a lot of times they say, well, it makes you stronger if you have a problem. Now, I went through horrible depression. I mean, I could never explain the horribleness of my depression that I had for 6 months, twice. So, I mean, is it better to hit bottom so you can recover? Because I hear that a lot. It's like whatever, doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I struggle with that a little bit. Like, are we supposed just to be miserable for a while and then get better? Or what do you feel about that? I mean,
well, first of all, I want to say that, to that statement, whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. There's truth in that for some people, but there's a lot of people that it kills. So we think we have to look at that. There's a lot of people
that's a good point.
that are abused or mistreated or, attacked or bombed that die. So I think we have to look at that. They don't have the opportunity to get stronger.
Or they get into a situation like being a bum on the street, and they die there. They get into a bad situation, or they drink and their liver goes. And you're absolutely right.
Totally.
It's a very, very good point.
Yeah, so I think we have to look at that. I think it's a positive way to look at your own pain and suffering if you have the opportunity to get safe and heal. And that's when it's a positive statement. It can make you stronger. But like I said, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to get safe or heal. And so I think the lens that I see for that question right now is we have to help make it safe for people. We have to help people heal. Because as you know from your own symptoms, and I know from mine, that some of the symptoms of unhealed hurt and wounding by other people are, if not life-threatening, they're life-compromising. And I think a lot of us have had our lives compromised by the wounding that we've gotten from other people.
People are suffering, and
absolutely.
And I don't know what we can do. I mean, I'm doing the best I can with my show, but, I have a limited audience. I can't reach everybody and stranglehold them and say, look what you're doing. I can't even do it with my kids. My daughter ghosted me, and my other kids are like, you're wrong about everything, morally and politically and everything. And if I say something, they say the opposite. So I can't even heal my own family. How are we going to heal families so we can live in a society that is happier, much happier? I mean, it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
I mean, people are cutting themselves. Come on. That's terrible.
I know.
And it's true.
I know.
And not only that, you talk about molestation. That goes on all over the place. In this country, and maybe every other country might be worse. But I have to feel that the sexual abuse in this country is very, very high. Because how many people hide it? How many people hide it?
Right.
And people and people at ADHD, they don't get the message that they think there's something wrong with them. They're not going to try anything. That they become on the street because they have ADHD or anything else.
Yeah.
in a line of depression. So how are we? What's the plan? Who's the leader? Where's the Martin Luther King of mental health?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's a Martin Luther King of mental health, but I do think there are a lot of people speaking to it, and I'm just one of them.
I know,
and one
I
of the
appreciate
things that
that.
I would, yeah, and thank you for having me too to give me the opportunity to speak about it. I think there's certainly no one solution, and there's no one person who's going to fix everything. But I think one of the things that I feel really committed to, and it's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, and it's a big reason, is because I think people need education. What you said, if somebody had sat down with you, right, they need information, and we don't have widespread psychological information in our culture.
It's not recognized on TV. People watch 10 hours of TV. You don't hear one word about. The only time you hear it is somebody shoots up a mall and they say he's crazy, period. That's all they say. They don't say what happened to him before. He was tortured.
Exactly.
He was abused. He was raped. They don't say any of that. They just say, well, don't worry about it, guys, because he was just crazy. What do we have to do from this point forward? Forget the past. What do we have to do as a society? And what do we have to do as a people? We have to get information to people. How would you do that? What do we need to do?
Well, I just want to say, that is the heart of my book, is to get what I think is really critical information to the public. The original title for my book was Out of the Office and Into the World, meaning I wanted to take, and I want to take, everything that I've learned as a psychotherapist and as a client into the world, so that our understanding of our own psychology, and specifically family dynamics, because I totally agree with you, and I think this is where the world of psychology has taken us, that our family dynamics are everything. I shouldn't say everything. We're also born with our own nature, but our conditioning is huge. And what we learn in our families about, especially how to deal with conflict, what is role model for us in our families about how we are supposed to behave when we disagree, when we want different things, when we don't like what somebody else is doing. I think our families are critical, and we are not living in a country today that is taking care of families. And if we look at so I take the model of an individual family and I kind of use that as a lens to look at what's going on in our country. In a healthy family, you have appropriate authority with good limits and boundaries, but there's also a place for each family member to have a voice, to express their needs, to get their needs met when they're appropriate and they work well within the family structure, where their gifts and their talents are encouraged, where no one is left out, where no one is persecuted, where no one is attacked. There's many qualities for a healthy family where people both cooperate and they get to express and own their own individuality. There's some relationship between the individual and the whole that works for both. And it gets constantly renegotiated as people change and grow and learn more, right? And we don't have that in our country.
Where is the representative that we vote for? Who do we vote for? I wish you would run for Congress.
The only person I know, I will just say, the only person I'm aware of, and my knowledge may be limited, but the only person that I'm aware of that embodies the kinds of things that I feel contribute to safety and peace and connection and good mental health is Marianne Williamson. She's the only one I know of. I've been reading a lot of her newsletters, and she talks about social justice, and she talks about poverty, and she talks about education and healthcare and all the things that, so let me just say this quickly, because this is what I wanted to say about the nuclear family, that if you had a family, just, parents and kids, where one parent only fed one of the kids and not the others, or only sent one to school or two to school and not the others, or beat one and praised the other, or locked one out of the house, or murdered one, you would say that family was ill. You would say that person was abusive. You would say they need help. They're mentally unwell. And yet, as a nation, we do these kinds of things to all kinds of populations. We withhold resources. There's terrible injustice in what we call our justice system. There's discrimination that is encouraged, and we're violent and we kill people and we attack peaceful demonstrators. So these are the dynamics of abuse. And if we want to heal as a country, we have to look at it through that lens.
See, if you don't know who you are, I mean, a lot of these people, they don't want to be molesters. They wouldn't pick that. But for whatever reason, inherent, it happened to them. Mostly it happened to them, so it's carried down.
Yeah.
They don't want to be like that. They don't want to be narcissists. Most narcissists don't want to be narcissists.
Yeah.
I don't see anything on the news. I don't see anything in school. Everything is wrong as far as I know ADHD is concerned. Because first of all, it's not a disorder and you don't have to be hyperactive. I'm very passionate about the fact that ADHD needs to be dealt with as a priority, but it isn't even thought about. We're not even close, Phyllis. Right. We're not even close. We are not even close to any kind of natural information. Not everybody listens to a podcast. So where are these people getting their information? On the news. And what do they get? Half of it is propaganda. Half of it's propaganda. And the other half is bad news. And there's nothing about mental health. Nothing.
Yeah.
People will march up and down for whatever cause, but where's our cause? Who's going to stand up and march up and down and go to Washington and say, look, we got to cure this. This is a big problem.
Yeah.
Everybody's embarrassed.
Well, and I think you're doing your part. You're doing your part. And there are a lot of people, I've been on a lot of podcasts, and there are a lot of people very concerned about exactly what you and I are talking about, and that's some of the thrust of their podcast. So I think we have to remember we're not alone, and no one of us is going to cure it all. We can just play our part. And I think it's really important for people to feel that they can make a difference, no matter how large or small the scale of their influence may be. Because I think a lot of people are losing hope. And that's one of the reasons, and one of the many reasons why I decided to write a book about these things, because we need hope. And we need to have hope based in, this is what I can actually do. This is what I can do in the world that I live in. And, and I would just say to you, you're doing something that's a great contribution, and it's very profound. And every person that you reach, you don't even probably know, and you'll never know what the ripple effect is.
6 degrees of separation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't know the ripple effect. Maybe somebody listens to your show one day, and just like you, if somebody had said you're ADHD and there's nothing wrong with you, you just have a different nervous system or a different brain function or whatever, it would have changed your life. If somebody had said to me the same thing, like, there's nothing wrong with you, something must have happened to create this level of pain. Let's go on a search and try to discover what it was, because it's not who you are, it's what happened to you, or it's not who you are, it's the way you're biologically wired, or whatever it is. And this is a huge contribution. This is a huge contribution that you're making. So I think one of the reasons why opening the door to looking at ourselves through a psychological lens and a family dynamics lens, one of the gifts of that is that we really look for underlying causes, because we can debate forever about our symptoms. And we have a lot of symptoms, the mass murders, the greed, the exploitation, the discrimination, the injustice, the withholding of resources, the pollution of the environment. We could go on and on and on. These are all symptoms of how we're not functioning properly as human beings to take care of one another and the planet, and to be sustainable, which is the underlying impulse of all living things, is to sustain their life, right? And their procreation. And I think we're on I'll say it this way because I want to be hopeful about it, and I have hope that people can change. And that is, I think we're on this precipice where we have to realize that our most valuable resource is people. The most valuable resource is us. And to the extent that we're invested in families and making a good life for children and preserving the environment and pulling ourselves back from war, then we're taking care of our human family. And we haven't quite gotten it, but there's lots of people out there saying it.
For years, I thought I was just a complete weirdo. Maybe I am, but I thought I was a complete weirdo. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't understand what was happening to me. And nobody could explain it to me. And then this one singer comes along and confesses every mental problem he has. Okay. And I say, wait a minute. He said that? What? He went up on a stage and said that, he can't find peace. He hates himself. It was an epiphany for me. Then I started getting into the groups online, and the people were like one after another saying the exact same story that I had. So the secret's out. I mean.
Right. So look at how one person helped change your life. And that's what we can be for each other. And that's the level that most of us are operating on.
We all have to stand up. We got to stop being ashamed of ourselves. We have to stop it.
That's right.
I don't know what anyone can say, but we need to have a cause. We need to have an organized cause, and we need to go forward with it because it's the most important thing in the world. Yeah. What's more important?
Well, you said a very powerful word that I want to pick up on, and that's the word shame. Because I felt that too for years. I felt so ashamed of the level of pain that I was.
I'm still ashamed of myself in a way because I can't do what other people can do. Easy things. I live in constant fear of talking. Okay, I was cut off at the dinner table. If I said something, they would cut it off every single time.
Wow.
And I wanted to.
And that's real emotional abuse.
And I would say stupid things because I do have ADHD, and I'd say something wrong and forget that. They really put it to me, ha, ha, ha. It was just, my family would laugh at me. Yeah. Like I was a clown.
Well, and these are the family dynamics that we live in our homes and in our country, that certain people are made fun of and they're not taken seriously. And if they're at all different, they're, shunned or persecuted or seen as inferior or withheld from.
1 in 10 people have ADHD. 1 in 10, they say.
Wow. Yeah.
And because people hide it. I hid it for years when I worked.
Yep.
Totally. I couldn't say I had ADHD. I talked to somebody that said, don't tell anybody at work unless you know that they have, a policy for it, because they'll fire you.
Right. So education is the beginning key. It's educating ourselves that we really are all different. We have different brain makeup. We have different conditioning. We come into the world with different natures. We come into the world different sexes, in different levels of opportunity or non-opportunity. And all of that conditions us. And it's not wrong. And there's not a better and there's not a worse. But again, this is part of I see that we're in desperate need of some new paradigms. I think in our country, we still operate on some people are less worthy, some people are not good. Rather than we really are all born equal.
We're binary. We think binary. It's good, it's bad, it's moral, it's not.
That's right.
Bullshit.
That's right.
Bullshit.
That's right.
Life is not binary.
That's right.
It's a very dark gray.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you get spirituality is if you can accept yourself no matter what, and you can accept being wrong about things.
Yeah. And that we can accept each other. And know that just as much as I want to be accepted for who I am and my uniqueness or my difference from you or, my different talents or my different beliefs or whatever it is, I want that and you want that. and we have to learn how to give it to each other. Because I think that's
one
of the roots of one of the hardest things. I always say it's harder to wage peace than it is to wage war. It's easy to react and blow up. It's not hard to do that. It's harder to restrain yourself and take responsibility for yourself and really be open to listen to another human being and hear another point of view and value somebody else's gifts, even if they're not like yours, and work it out. It's much harder to work it out.
And compromise.
Yep.
And don't label people.
Yep.
Don't say he's bad.
Yep.
He's not bad.
Right.
He's a human being.
That's right.
Who maybe went bad because of certain circumstances.
That's right.
I mean, you have to be held accountable. You can't just go around killing people.
That's right.
But there's a fine line there. I mean, some people, maybe they look bad to you, but really they're not doing any harm. They're just living a different way than you. But people hate that.
I know.
I mean, we're tribal people, and lately we've become even more so, I think, because of the TV propaganda.
Right. One of the things that I say is that that we, in an abusive family or in a dysfunctional family, people are set up against each other. You know, an abuser blames other people for whatever the problems are, rather than looking at what the whole environment is creating that's conditioning people to be the way they are. And this is what I really want to bring to our country. We have a lot of highly symptomatic people. You were referring to this before when you were talking about a mass murderer. You know, many of the mass murderers are known to have been suicidal, and they end up dying by suicide in the assault that they perpetrate. Many of them come from highly dysfunctional, abusive, or addictive, or neglectful or alienated kinds of childhood, or they suffered great loss and they didn't get any help, or they were bullied because they had a speech impediment, or whatever it was they suffered from. And we have to look at how we treat each other if we really want these ills to be mitigated, and stop saying these are just bad people.
Yeah, we want people to tell us we're right. You're right. Yeah. You're right. You're right. Right. You're right. You're right.
Right. Right.
How do you grow? How do you grow if you're always right? If you're always right, how do you grow?
Right. And also everybody feels that way. So then what do we do?
Right.
Right. We all feel that way.
My son says there's one morality. That's it.
And what would you say it is?
Well, I think it's to do no harm, to take it upon yourself, to live a life that you don't purposely hurt other people. You don't do things that are wrong. I mean, I feel other people's feel. I really feel other people's feelings. Yeah. So I never wanted to hurt anybody.
Right.
You know, throughout my life, I know I'm different. I didn't know why. So I figured I was destructive. Right. I felt bad. I thought I was hurting people.
Right.
And really, I was the only one getting hurt.
Right.
It's true.
Right. And you internalized a lot of negative beliefs from your family. And one of the things I want to point out, and maybe you want to say more about this, is you talked about how you were treated by your siblings that was really abusive and hurtful, and, you know, really, really injured your self-esteem along with whatever you were dealing with inside yourself. I'm curious how your parents dealt with it. How did they try to ever stop your brothers? Did they ever?
They were absentee. No, they were absentee. Absentee. World War II, you're crazy or not.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only mental thing they understood.
Right.
And they were in denial. My mother had ADHD. Oh. They did the same thing to her in a way. They cut her off too and laughed at her. Mm-hmm. Same thing. So, you know, if people are smart, like my brother has a genius IQ, but his emotional, I don't know what it is. Spirituality is low.
Well, he was allowed in the family system to be hurtful toward you. And so he internalized
Yeah, he doesn't even think there's anything wrong. He gets mad at me if I don't go over there. I mean, why?
So he feels entitled because he got that message that he was entitled to act out. whatever he felt like acting out. And that's one of the dangers in our society is that so
Oh,
many
yeah.
people now in positions of authority and influence feel entitled to their rage, to their persecution of others, to their feelings of superiority or whatever they feel. And this is a dangerous psychological environment. I call it in the family of America. So I feel like we have to look at our individual families and the conditioning that people get in their homes, like you're talking about in your home, and what's happening in the family of America, because they're interrelated. And especially in the world of social media and, you know, the kind of news outlets that we have now that are at everybody's fingertips 24/7, we're very, very influenced by what's going on around us and the role models of people that are in
We've
power
created
today.
technology that we can't handle. That is
Right.
hurting a lot of
Right.
people, especially our young. I mean, the suicide
Yeah.
rates are way up, and I just feel everybody I go to has a problem. I mean, because I guess I work with it, but if they don't have a problem, they're lying. You know what I mean? I think everybody has to resolve the issues they got
Yeah.
during their lifetime at some point
Yeah.
to have a happy life, to be happy. I mean, I don't know if we are just so new at this.
Yeah.
We don't know what to do. It's not in the media.
Mm-hmm.
It's nowhere else. So
Yeah.
what do people do? I mean, they read your book. Let's talk about your book a little bit more. What's the title of your book?
Yeah. The title of my book is called America in Therapy, A New Approach to Hope and Healing for a Nation in Crisis.
Yeah, is there a method, overall method that you would use to help heal families?
Yeah, well, what I talk about sort of like the big picture and the small, the immediate picture. And there are tools. You know, one of the things that I always say about psychotherapy is it's not partisan. It's not about taking sides. If a couple comes to therapy and they're really having, a struggle getting along with each other, or they're fighting, or they're on the verge of divorce, or, they can't agree on some major issues in their lives, the goal of psychotherapy is to help them listen to one another peacefully and respectfully and restrain their own reactions if they're kind of violent emotionally or verbally, and then really listen deeply to what the other person has to say, the way that they want to be heard, because we all want to be heard, but we don't know how to listen. Take responsibility for our part in whatever is going on, and learn how to do that in a safe environment. So in the safe environment, I could say to you, I hear you. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have talked to you that way. Or, once I really hear you, I can have empathy for your point of view, or I understand better how I impacted you. So in a safe environment, in a healing environment, we take responsibility for ourselves, and we learn to treat each other better based on the feedback we get from other people about what they want, but also based on doing our own healing work. Because the more we heal the injuries in our own conditioning, the more we're likely to demonstrate love and peace and cooperation and nonviolent conflict resolution in our lives. And I've never seen that not happen.
People are not on board. They're not on board. They're not on board to go out there and maybe have a family counseling, for instance. They're not on board with that. My kids, right. I begged them to let's get it all on the table. Let's put all our cards on the table. And they're like, well, I don't have time. It's not really true. It's all your fault. We know it's your fault. So why should we go there?
Right.
No, there's never one person. There's never one person in the family to blame, ever.
Never. And sometimes that healing is not available with people that we most want it with. And that's tragic. And it's very painful when that happens. And I think what's left, and this is just my view, and you're certainly, please say yours, what's left is to put your love and your wisdom and your voice out in the world where it can be heard, even if it can't be heard with some of the people that you'd most like to work it out with. And you're doing that in your podcast. You're claiming your own wounding, and you're taking the shame out of it for untold numbers of people who listen to your podcast. And I can say exactly what you said. I wish I had had that when I was growing up. I had nowhere to talk about it, and would never have thought of talking about it because I felt so badly about what was in my internal world. So we help each other, one step, one person at a time, and you're doing it. And it's sad that you don't have that with your own children, and it's a pain that's really there. And I know other people who have that with their children, and it's a very deep pain.
Because people are so insecure that they cannot have enough. Like, my brother can't be smart enough. He always has to prove. He has to prove. I go on over there and he puts Jeopardy on so he can have all the answers. He always has to prove that he's better. Always. And most people are like that. Most people lose confidence in a second, and they have to be stroked and said, no. That shouldn't be. We should have more confidence in ourselves. We should have people that treat us with respect.
That's right.
Instead of putting us down for being born with a different type of brain. My children don't respect me. They just don't respect me, period. That's the end of it.
And so I think the only thing that's available then is, or one of the most powerful things that's available then, is that we be those people. We be the people that respect others. We be the people that see beneath other people's defenses or poor coping mechanisms or, their own self-criticism or whatever it is that they're trapped in. I think that's one of the gifts. If you have a really good therapist, that's one of the gifts of really good psychotherapy, is that you are talking to someone who sees that you are more than your symptoms.
We have to come out of the shadows. We are in the shadows. We're embarrassed if we have anything that is remotely an emotion. We can't talk about it because it's embarrassing. Well, I say that's ridiculous. Everybody has emotions. Everybody has things they can do and things they can't do. Everybody's worth a lot. I mean, a human being, if you think about the odds of being a person are about quadrillion to 1. If you start from the beginning of the universe, to actually have you be born is almost impossible. But we're all here, and we have to try to be stronger. We don't blame other people, because you have to fix yourself, and that is the magic potion.
Yeah.
They have all these potions that'll make us feel better, Omega X or whatever. You have